to be on. Good evening, and welcome to the Goffstown Goffstown Planning Board meeting, December 12th, 2016. I'm sorry, it's just a habit.
December 15th.
December 15th, I'm reading. All right, our chairman, Barbara Griffin, will not be here tonight. I'll be running the meeting. My name's Phil Devanza, and we'll start with introductions, starting with our planning and coordinator.
I'm John Thorpe, the Planning and Zoning Administrator.
Chip Owen, Planning Board alternate.
David Pierce, Selectman's representative.
Gail Brett, alternate and recording secretary.
Philip Devanza,
Kimberly Peace.
Tim Redmond.
Michael Conlon.
and I see we have one more member that arrived, he's in the hallway putting his coat away, Jim Raymond. With that, the first order of business that we're going to have is the acceptance of the correction of the minutes from December 8th.
Did we just get these on our table tonight?
Yes.
Okay,
We'll make a
well,
motion.
No, we don't even have to make a motion on it, we'll just hold off onto it, put it till next week, I'm sorry. Okay, with that, the next item that we have is we've had one request for a continuance tonight, just so in case there's anybody, members of the public that came for map 34, lot 88, which is Fletcher, Church Street Plumbing Business Site Plan. That's been requested to be continued to, I think it's the 21st, is it?
26th.
26th, January 26th?
And I believe we have a representative for the applicant here to speak on the behalf if the planning board has any questions to that continuance.
Okay, well, if does the planning board have any questions? Tim?
Yeah, this is about the fourth time this has been continued, and I'd like to have some explanation as to why it's dragging on.
Would the applicant's representative be able to approach?
Yes.
Step up. My name is Rick Kohler, Todd Land Use Consultants, representing Mr. Fletcher. I'm not sure it's been continued 4 times, but we're actively pursuing getting the plans together and meeting the requirements of site plan review. We're requesting at this point a continuation to an unspecified date because the deadline to get the materials in would be January 6th. We're currently generating a multi-page plan set in compliance with the site plan regulations. We will be providing additional information in support of the current application, including the need for the previous submitted waiver requests that the board found excessive. We're actively working on a drainage study and a relative stormwater management design to satisfy town engineer. We are working on the landscape screening design, including plantings and lighting as part of the site plan regs. And we are also working on legal documents for cross-access easements, which were requested by the board. These are the reasons we're asking for a continuance. And we are certain that we won't have that information ready in what is a little less than 3 weeks for the deadline by the 6th.
Okay, so am I correct to understand that the continuance is not specifically to January 26th?
Correct.
Okay, so then the statement that I made to the 26th was incorrect.
It was requested originally to be the 26th.
Okay,
and
okay,
after
so
discussion.
you're asking to modify that request?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, to a date uncertain.
Excuse me?
To a date uncertain.
Correct.
Any other questions? Seeing none, do we have any motion?
Motion to grant the request for continuance to a date uncertain.
Seconded.
Any further discussion?
Will that require a butter re-notification?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just making sure that's...
No, that's fine. Okay. Anything else? Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. the other thing too, I wanted, before we go further, we have a full board. I just want to make sure we have a full board, because if we don't, I have to designate.
Don't have a full board.
We're not full board. Barbara's missing.
Yeah, but you can still put someone in to vote in her place.
Okay, so,
Good quorum.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
But Barbara is,
Right, no, we only have one alternate here. No, we have 2 alternates here, but I'll have, check.
So wouldn't we normally
Jet's voting.
assign someone to vote
Voting
in
number.
Barbara's place?
Sounds good.
Right?
Yep.
The only one missing is
Okay.
Barbara.
4, 5, 6, yeah.
Right. That's why I wanted to make sure, because I thought we were short one.
Here we are. Yeah.
Just want to do the count so we have it correct and there's no issue, no problem with our votes. With that, I want to skip over the items that we have that are other correspondence and action items. We have, the old business is what was requested.
No, we didn't look at them, so we...
No, wait a minute.
We-
No, the old business is what was requested for the continuance. So we're going to our new business, and our new business, first item on our new business is map 12, lot 26-1, completeness review, subdivision review hearing for proposed 2-lot subdivision, creating 1 new lot, 476 East Dunbarton Road, owners Rick and Janice Briggs, and zoned agricultural.
Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'd like to move the easel to the front of the room.
Go right ahead.
Front of the room, right? People in the
Oh,
back.
okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Watch out for my obstacle course.
Excellent.
Well done.
Okay, before we go further, I just want to make an announcement to the board that I live in this neighborhood. I am not in a butter, and I do not personally know the owners of the property. So that anybody feel that I'm running the meeting and there's an issue, so. Okay? It's a subdivision plan, acceptance recommendations. Jonathan, do you want to go through this?
Sure, absolutely. The applicant originally came before the ZBA and was granted a variance for less than 200 feet of road frontage. Been speaking with Mr. Shea to address a lot of the comments that were had, minor comments from myself and DPW. I believe they're here to address that tonight, and basically what it does is it splits one property into 2, and I believe it's, the second lot will end up going to a family member, so they can actually use that property for them. I don't believe it
Mr. Chairman.
has regional impact. Okay, sorry.
Tim?
Do you have a copy of the notice of decision?
I believe that was in,
Was it in our packet?
thought it was, but
All seeing it.
I didn't see it when I went through mine. I could have missed it.
might have those.
I didn't see it. That's why I asked. Hundred and 54 feet.
Not sure it was.
If I want to see it.
Trying to see if I have it here. do have a copy of the ZBA staff report, and the only condition, they were unsure exactly of the lot size that it would be, and I believe Mr. Shea might be able to speak to the exact size of the lots. The only issue was that the smaller lot, the secondary lot, would not decrease in size, that would only increase to make sure that the 2-acre minimum was met, and there would be no issues with that. So.
And is that the lot that's identified on the plan as 2.012 acres?
Yep, yeah, they wanted to make sure that that lot wouldn't be constrained any more than it already is. That was the only condition of the ZBA approval.
So, did they issue a notice of decision?
Yes,
And is that what you're reading from?
I am reading actually from the
You said your staff report, that's not a notice of
unapproved
decision.
minutes, yes. And that was what the notice of decision was derived from, that and the minutes that came about.
Well, I don't want to hold things up, but normally I would like to read the notice of decision so that I can know what the stipulations were, or what the hardship was, and those different aspects of a notice of decision, so for the future.
Understood. In the future, I will make sure that they were in there.
So you said so can you tell us what their comments were on their notice of decision?
The applicant basically said that they wanted to subdivide the lots and requested for one lot to be 123.5 foot of frontage where 200 is required, and the acreage might increase to allow for buildable area.
So, in the considerations here, you have 154.87 feet. Is that to the parent lot? Or is that for the lot in question?
I believe the secondary lot was 123.5 and the original lot was still 200.
Well, that's different from what's on our report. Page 8, bottom of page 8.
154.87.
Would Mr. Shea be able to speak toward that?
I think we have a foot more than the minimum that was allowed. I think we have like 124 feet, 24 and a half.
So that's. Oh, 24.
88. 44 and 40. 124.88?
Yeah, we have approximately a foot more than the minimum that was allowed by the variance.
Yeah, so that's a typo on page 8.
I'd be curious what the hardship was, but ZBA has ruled, so I guess we're stuck with
Well,
it.
I can give a little overview if you want.
That's at the chair's discretion.
Well, I think not at this point, I'd just like to get to the point, go forward, and get to acceptance of this application. We haven't even got to that.
Is there a waiver request, Mr. Chairman?
Well, I was waiting for John to finish, and then the question came up about, ask him about the ZBA, and I don't think John finished.
The waiver requested that you have is for the topographic map.
Of which lot? Of the whole, or just the
The remaining lot,
big one?
a portion, small portion of it.
And I believe the applicant was also going to speak to the potential well radii conflicts as well.
Yeah, but for acceptance period purposes, I'm gonna move that we find the application is complete, has an original impact, we grant the waiver solely for acceptance purposes.
Okay. If there's a second on the...
Second the motion.
Okay. On that, and on the application, John, on the second page, is the application complete?
It is.
What about number 18? Does that pertain?
It shouldn't be an issue.
Okay.
So just to clear that up, Mr. Chairman, this applicant is not waiving the 65-day clock, or is willing? What are we talking here? A little odd.
I don't know, that's why I asked the question.
Good.
Was it-
Well, maybe John can answer for us then.
By checking no, the applicant is not willing to.
Not waiving?
Correct, not waiving the 65-day.
But it's not, nothing's checked. Or am I looking at,
Mine says no.
Mine says no.
on number 18?
Number 18?
Mine's checked no.
I don't know, on the page I have, do you see a check on 18?
I do.
Okay, mine doesn't have a check on it, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, John. Okay, that's why I asked the question.
I got two of them, actually.
All right, a motion been made and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, motion carries unanimously. So it's been accepted.
I guess I'd like to hear John walk through the reports then, so we can see what the issues are.
Sure. Hey, John?
Certainly. The planning department comments, they're relatively minimal, just basically a description of what the applicant is asking. We did look at the well radii, they're requesting an easement, but again, with discussions with Mr. Shea, after this was submitted, I think they may have a resolution to that to avoid that need for an easement. Conservation Commission recommendation, they would basically like, after this is subdivided, they would like for it not to be subdivided again because of the wetness and the wetlands and prime wetlands being in the area. They request that that it not be subdivided further. And then with the DPW comments, again, relatively minor, they can be addressed. I don't mean to speak for Megan, but I think she can correct me if I'm... Basically some labeling and some sheet edits. And again, she mentioned the well radii as well, drainage swale and drainage easement. And also to add the intent to cut note to the plan. No comments received from fire. PT has no issues.
I don't understand, maybe Megan can describe the drainage swale, where that is and what she's talking about. Between the two lots, so it's not on town property, is it to protect the town, or is this for?
There's a 12-inch HDP pipe that comes out, and it drains primarily on the parent lot.
Yeah.
But there's no like defined swale or anything, so I was just stating that when a house is built, if there's grading, I wanted to make sure that they allow, the water to pass between the properties. I didn't want the new lot to force the water onto the existing lot, because the existing lot has a septic area that's out in the back corner. So I just wanted to make sure like the water wasn't being directed out there. So even if a note is on the plans that if a swale is needed, it would be, directed between the two properties so it doesn't cause a problem for either property.
How do we enforce that? And once the subdivision occurs, it's... How does that determine?
Again, you can put it on the plans to say
Yeah,
a
but
drainage
so
swale.
what? Once the subdivision occurs, land's recorded, what happens? And then 4 years later, there's a
I mean,
problem.
we've talked about this stuff before. The only way that we're involved
Is
is
it a single plan?
driveway permits. So, I mean, we can look at it when we're out there for a driveway permit, but like any conditions that are put on the different plans we do, they're required to follow the conditions of their plan, and if they don't, and something becomes a problem, we have the plan to fall back on and come back to the board
Well,
if
let
it's
me
an issue.
let me rephrase the question. If the drainage swale is not built or is incomplete or inadequate, who or what is impacted? Is it the abutters, the two properties, or is it the town's road?
No, it would most likely be the property. So if it was a town's road, we have the state RSA to go after a property owner if there's a problem in that manner. So, but I was more concerned with grading that could push the water onto the parent lot and impact their septic area out back.
Okay,
I was just trying to make them cognizant of that.
okay, thank you.
I actually brought up the official minutes of the previous meeting where the ZBA granted approval. I can actually read verbatim what it would say in the notice of decision if that would help.
Yeah.
I think so. Okay.
Motion to approve the variance as presented with condition that the lot have a minimum size of 2 acres, and the planning board is to refine where they deem appropriate. And Kathy Wooten seconded the motion. It was all in favor and motion carried.
Were there any findings? Like, to meet their requirements for a variance?
Looking through real quick.
It wasn't in the vote.
It discussed the 123 feet, the 15 acres, total frontage of 323 feet. And they talked about the wetlands. They talked about the making sure they don't impede on the wetlands. They wanted to make sure that the minimum lot size in the area is 2 acres, which they would be able to accommodate. They discussed heavily about the wetlands. And
Well, okay, I don't want to bog it down, I'm just a little surprised. There's certain requirements, findings they're supposed to make.
Right.
and You're going to skip over that and just grant it.
Including a hardship.
Yeah, that's number one.
Right, because you have to define what the hardship is.
Yeah, that still exists in our law, despite the Supreme Court's attempts to take it away. I'm not commenting on the wisdom of the Supreme Court, mind you.
Granted, the variance would not be contrary to public interest because the public would have no interest, nor would they be harmed by the allowance of single-family home to be constructed on this lot as proposed. The spirit of the ordinance is observed because the intent of the frontage requirement is to provide for a reasonable buffer between houses and to help manage lot density appropriate to the area. There would be only 2 houses on 15 acres, which addresses the density, and the proposed house will meet the side setback requirements, which address the buffer between the houses. Granting a variance would do substantial justice because it would allow the owner the ability to have reasonable use of 15 acres other than just one large oversized house lot. The value of surrounding properties will not be diminished because there are several properties in the neighborhood with frontage or lot widths less than 200 feet. Similarly reduced frontage lot should not adversely affect the surrounding values. No fair and substantial relationship exists between the general public purposes of the ordinance provision and the specific application of the provision to the property, because due to the size of the original tract and the sufficient size of the proposed building location, the public purposes of the ordinance are protected and preserved. The proposed use is a reasonable one. It would allow the owner the ability to use his land similar to his neighbors. Special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area are that the parcel is large in acreage, has significant wetlands to the rear of the lot, and has only enough frontage for the existing house. It would not be practical to subdivide or develop further with an internal town road to create additional frontage.
Good job, Ray.
And I apologize for not including that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else? If not, I will turn it over to the Mr. Shea.
Evening, my name is Raymond Shea from Sanford Survey, and with me tonight is Rick Briggs, one of the owners. As has been stated, this is a 2-lot subdivision located on the east side of East Dunbarton Road, about 1,000 feet south of the Dunbarton town line. There's an existing house, and we did receive a variance to allow the new lot less than 200 feet of frontage. The waiver request, in the middle of the remaining house, the house will remain on 13 acres and has 200 feet of frontage. The proposed lot is 124.8, I believe, feet of frontage, and that is just over 2 acres. The waiver we're requesting is in the center of the remaining lot. there's an isolated upland, about 2-3 acres. We didn't topo that. We did wetland delineation on the entire property. We topoed the entire property except that center area. Didn't really affect any information we needed to give the board to provide the fact that the lot's buildable, and it saved a little time and cost for the applicant, so that's why we're asking for a waiver for that area. It was just a convenience not to do it. The area is separate from the building area. It's kind of isolated in between all those little fingers of wetland. The comments from staff. We had looked at possibly moving the well back behind the septic area. It might still be a possibility when it comes time to building. It does drop off. There's a little bit of difficulty in possibly getting a well truck down there. The lot does fatten up in that area, so we would be able to get the entire radius on the lot. But I think after looking at it, speaking to Mr. Briggs, we may want to leave it as shown, and then at the time of septic design and construction, if it looks like it's convenient to get a well truck down below, then the easement wouldn't be needed, and the well would be in that area on the east side of the septic system. There is a culvert, a road culvert that comes, drains from west to the east side where our property is, a little north of the new proposed lot line. And as Megan said, it's not a defined channel. There's not a lot of flow, obviously, when it rains and it takes roadside runoff. We would be willing to give an easement around the culvert outlet so that in the future, Public Works would have the ability to get in there and work on the culvert and maintain it or replace it if need be. I would like to address put the future runoff down between the lots as a note. I think creating a swale or an easement all the way back to the wetlands is a little bit overkill, but I do understand Megan's concern about the developer on this lot cutting off the flow heading down the hill. However, if that does happen, it's not going to back up to the road because the elevation drops off so fast. It's just going to wash out whatever dirt they put there, and then they'll realize they shouldn't have put it there, and they'll put a ditch or stone riprap. So, but I think a note on the plan to the effect of keeping that area free of fill might be reasonable, and then granting maybe a 20-foot easement around the outlet of the culvert to assist in any future maintenance that's required by Public Works, so that they could get on the property and maintain it as they need be. That's how we'd like to address the staff comments. Other than that, there's very few comments, I think, as you see.
Ray, could you go up to the
Yeah,
map and
sure.
just show, so
Yep.
members of the audience and TV viewers can just give
There's a little culvert right here, 12-inch, and it drains this area of the road, and then it just runs free straight down. If you look at the contours, it pretty much runs perpendicular to the contours, which would be right down south of the house, south of the leach field, down to the wetlands. And Megan's concern is that if this lot's developed it right up to the lot line, it's gonna push the force of water near the existing septic. But the Briggs proposal is to build, in the center of the lot, as close to the road as possible, and not head over across the
Right.
property line to block the drainage.
just so that everybody could be clear, that anybody that's here for the hearing, just show them the lot and the proposed stuff.
This is the new proposed lot. This is obviously the overall existing 15 acres. And the house would remain on the 13.2, and the new lot would be on this 2-acre lot.
And that's East Dunbarton Road in the
This
front,
is
right
East
in front.
Dunbarton Road. Dunbarton line is about 1,000 feet to the north. I think Goffstown Road, Cross Road comes in just a couple of houses down below.
Hooksett Road in Goffstown Road and Hooksett.
And this is the 20th Skeet Sportsman Club property back
Why
there.
don't you show them where Phil lives while you're at it?
I don't know. No. That would be a conflict of interest.
Mr.
So hopefully
Chair?
that kind of gives an overview of where we are.
Mr. Chair?
Yep, yes.
While he was addressing the culvert, I have one question on the culvert.
Sure.
Mr. Shea, the lower invert is on the west, which would suggest
No, it's
that
on the east.
Well, it shows it 2/10 of a foot
it's-
lower
Well,
on
it's
the...
pretty flat.
Yeah, so
It's gonna go that, it's gonna go.
I just
down.
wanted to confirm, the flow does go opposite the slope of the
Yeah.
culvert.
Yeah, there's like a couple inches there, but it was put in a long time ago before Megan was public.
Good,
Otherwise, it would be
good
sloped-
answer.
Otherwise, it would be sloped correctly.
Kimberly?
You said you delineated all the wetlands, including the prime wetlands?
All the wetlands have been delineated, we just didn't topo that center area of upland.
Okay.
Correct, yeah.
Is there a way for us to get that prime wetland boundary updated in our GIS system as well as send it to DES?
Well,
I'll
this-
talk to
this-
Neil and see.
Yeah, when this is, if this is approved, an AutoCAD version will be submitted to Neil and GIS, and he can use that.
Okay. What I'd like is to have a conversation with DES to see, I don't think the prime wetlands have been updated since, I don't know, I can't even know, 2009 maybe they were made.
Okay.
So, it's nice to have a fresh delineation to make sure that we get that and maybe forward it to DES as well.
I can make sure they are aware of that as well.
Okay, good.
Ray, just a question about your town line indicators. Do you possibly have those reversed?
Yes.
Yeah, the water flows
Yes,
the
they
other
do.
way, come on. Yeah, we do.
Okay, I'm just curious to make sure the lot was actually in Goffstown, not in Hooksett.
Well, he did that because he had the roads mixed up.
Okay.
I didn't
Jim?
notice that. I'd like to hear from Megan on the applicant's offer for a drainage easement, what that should be, if we have a standard form for the culvert.
We do have a standard drainage easement that I can send to Ray, and it typically is, somewhere, like 20.
Yeah, we'll
20 by
show
20
like a
at the
20 by
outlet is
20
fine.
foot box around the
Is
head.
that, is that sufficient?
Yeah, and that's fine. Then the land does slope off and away, so there's no, there's no issue for our culvert across the road. It was more, I was worried about it getting directed over towards
I
the
just
setback.
wanted to specify what the easement is that we're accepting, if 20 by 20 is acceptable to you.
Yeah, I have a standard one I can send around.
Any other questions? If not, I'm going to open the public hearing. If there any members of the public that are here for this, or any abutters that are here that have any questions or comment? Jim?
Well, go ahead, finish, I have a question.
Okay. Any other member of the public, even if you're not an abutter? Any questions, comments? Okay, seeing none. I'm gonna, Jim?
Sure. Well, Mr. Shea has said they may or may not need they may or may not move the well, and if they do move it, they're not going to need the well radius easement. But how do we know that? When is that determination made? 'Cause we're going to have a condition on the plan, and is that when a building permit is?
Yeah, we'll agree to the easement and process it and record it, and then if during construction and the design of the septic, they look at it and say, yeah, we can get a well truck down there, then the easement's just there, and
Okay.
they can extinguish it eventually if they don't need it.
Okay, that's what I was hoping to be the answer.
I just
Megan?
want to clarify two different things, so drainage.
Yeah,
easement,
this is
and
the
then
well
municipal
radius.
waiver of liability.
Yes.
Okay.
Right, we're talking two different easements.
Right.
Well, no, this isn't the
Like
waiver.
three different things, actually.
This isn't the waiver of municipal, because there are,
Right.
it's the butters agreement not to
Right.
dump chicken poop on the well radius.
Any other questions? Any other, last call for any members of the public who have a question or make a comment? If If not, I'm just going to close the public hearing for now.
Well, Megan, I may ask, are you, or Jonathan, are you looking for a waiver of municipal liability as well on the well because of its proximity to the road? You got, the overlap with the abutter is one issue, but typically we have that because of the road proximity.
Yeah, it's not just overlapping the road, that would be one case, it's overlapping a drainage flow path. Because say, you know,
Okay, so-
water comes off the road, if there's any salt in it, it's to kind of say,
Okay.
hey, you know, make, that they're aware that they're putting their well in an area where the radius overlaps an existing
Mhm.
flow
Okay.
path off the road that could potentially have salt in the water, so.
We're fine with
Want to dispose of the waiver?
I'm going to move that we grant the waiver
Is there a second?
based upon the applicant's representations about the location of the area that was not marked. And that requiring that would be an unnecessary hardship. That it's not necessary for all the conditions on page 40 that I usually recite, but I can't remember. Put them in.
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. A waiver has been granted.
I move that we approve the application with certain conditions, which we'll go to, listed on page 10 of your package, which is staff recommendations, including numbers 1, 2, 3. Or we're going to modify that if the well is not located entirely within the lot lines of the lot, there'll be a well radius easement. In addition, they will require a waiver of municipal liability for the wells. Let me stop for a minute. What are we gonna do about the drainage swale?
Just modify number 5
To
to include a
note on the plan that
Any-
what?
the granted easement to the town for openers.
Well, there's 6 is the drainage easement, but the 5 is the
Swale
drainage
itself.
swale. The applicant has requested that they not be compelled to build one. But Megan would like at least a note, but we're not assuming it as a municipal liability that we have to build it. So what are we saying? And if Megan can recommend some wording.
Well, I think what we're looking at is, the recommendation is from Public Works for the swale, but the applicant prefers not to have this.
Yeah, I know, so what are we gonna put on the plan?
Put something like, proposed grading for law 12-26-1-1 will not force existing flow path to existing septic on, what are the parent lot numbers, 12-26-1, something like that.
I incorporate that into the motion. I believe that's acceptable to the applicant.
That's for paragraph 5.
Yeah, okay. Continuing down, number 6, that the applicant will grant at least a 20-foot by 20-foot drainage easement acceptable to the Department of Public Works. Number 7, number 8, number 9, number 10. 11 is not a condition on a plan, but we can incorporate it. I guess 11 through 13 are, no, 11 and 12 are more notices. Do we put those on the plan? We don't, do we?
We've been working on that.
I'll leave that, well,
Leave it
11 and
administrative.
12 are to be acceptable to the planning director. Is that for a punt? And 13.
All three?
Well, 13, yeah.
One second.
That's a little rambling, but it's better than
Well, it
sometimes.
gets there. Basically, the 1 through 10, and the others are up to
Staff.
staff. Anything further on that? All set? It's been seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you very much, appreciate it.
Quite The next application is map 7, lot 25, completeness review, subdivision review hearing for proposed 2-lot subdivision, creating 1 new lot, Parker Station Road. Owner Scott Smith, zoned residential 1. When you're ready, John.
This is off of Parker Station Road. They're looking, again, similar to the last application, to create a 2-lot subdivision. They are requesting no waivers at this time. Some other considerations, per the assessor, lot should be labeled map 7, lot 25-4, due to the fact that map 7, lot 25-3 exists elsewhere. A couple of other issues, as far as staff comments, the proposed driveways we'd like to see identified as on the plan. Land is not part of the Parker Station Historic District. We do have Conservation Commission comments as part of the information provided this evening. And I can read those if you'd like real quick. Conservation Commission reviewed the proposed plan and voted to recommend to the planning board that the edge of the wetland surface water conservation buffer be marked with shields and plaques to identify the buffer, as no structures are built within the buffer area. Also, they recommend that the buffer be identified in the language of the new deed. DPW had some comments as well. They'd like to have the temporary benchmarks identified on the plan. A few other labels for culvert. Again, show proposed driveway locations. A couple of other typos. And to verify what the horizontal datum is. No comments received from fire. Police have no comments, no issues.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm looking at the locust plan, and I'm not sure where the property is. There's an arrow that might be it, but
Just a road label, there's a couple of different
yeah,
areas.
just curious.
It's not clear at all.
To site, and maybe that's,
That's it. The arrows are pointing to road names.
Mhm.
yeah.
They're pointing to the roads stating the name, but where it says site, that's where it is.
The
Somewhere around.
the
the
town
site.
boundary line is left off that locust plan, too.
Yeah.
Is that the old rail corridor right behind the property?
I believe that it is.
That's
Yeah,
the-
yes, it is.
Is there an easement for that, or what's the status?
And the former rail corridor is shown on the plan as belonging to the Riverbend Farm,
Well, now I know where the property is. Okay.
Mr. Sterling.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Has that been Has the easement been abandoned? Is it?
Yes, it belongs to Mr. Sterling,
I know this.
River Bend Farm.
Mr. Chair, I move that we find that the application is complete and has no regional impact, except for hearing.
A second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Abstaining, opposed, abstaining, motion carries unanimously. With that, I'll invite the applicant to address the board.
Thank you, board members. My name is Patrick Colburn, and I'm a project manager with the firm Keach Nordstrom Associates, representing Scott Smith, the property owner. I'm filling in tonight from Mike Dahlberg, who's the project manager and land surveyor for this project from our office. And I'll approach the board there, my presentation plan. We've outlined the property here in green. That's the parent piece, map 7, lot 25. It's located on the south side. There's your north arrow. This is Parker Station Road, located on the south side of Parker Station Road here in Goffstown. The property is 3.895 acres in area and currently undeveloped. It's situated entirely in the R1 zoning district, and it's served by municipal water, which is available under Parker Station Road. The applicant and property owner has owned this particular piece for since the early 80s, and he and his wife now endeavor to subdivide the property to create one new building lot. So this is the proposed lot line here, highlighted in pink. So create one new building lot. The resultant acreage is map 7-25 is 1.188 acres with 32,700 square feet of buildable area. And map 7-25-4, as it will be labeled on a revised plan, 2.707 acres. The acreage of lot 25-4 is considerably larger than that of 7-25, and that's primarily because of the stream that bisects the property and the associated 100-foot wetland setback that encumbers the property. If you look at sheet 2 in your plan set, you'll see that Mike has delineated the requisite building box as well as the 4,000 square foot septic reserve area for each of those two properties outside of steep slope areas, etc. As John mentioned, we're not requesting any waivers associated with the project, but the piece does require septic systems that will be reviewed and approved by the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. And so as a result, Mike submitted and has already received state subdivision approval from the DES. That was received on December the 2nd. So we've dug the required test pits, conducted the on-site perk tests, and those are all shown on that same sheet too. I think that's all there is to it. It's pretty straightforward, 1 into 2 frontage chop. We were asked by engineering to make a couple of plan revisions. They discuss I'll turn to the topo plan here, sheet 2 in your set. They mention an existing cross culvert, and it is labeled, but it's minuscule. The text size is minuscule, so we'll ask Mike to revise that. They want to add a permanent benchmark and identify the horizontal and vertical datums. Before Mike left for his knee surgery, he told me none of those conditions are a problem, and those will easily be addressed with final plans in Mylar.
Could you put your finger on the culvert? Is this
Yeah,
down here?
it's this guy right here.
The dotted line.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
dashed line, and it is labeled on here 10-inch corrugated plastic pipe, but
If you're over
on your
60,
plan, you wouldn't be able to
if
see
you're
it.
over 60, you can't read it.
Yeah.
Not that any of us are.
There was also a discussion regarding proposed driveways, and so what I did for tonight's, in anticipation of your question for tonight's meeting, I prepared an exhibit plan to show where 2 driveways could be constructed to serve these lots. The land does fall off considerably from Parker Station Road, and so the driveways, though, are quite feasible. And then I've just shown where Mike identified the building rectangles, I graded out flat spots just for the purpose of showing some grade on a plan. Nothing saying that this is where a house would be built, but it's just telling you where a house could be built Likewise with the driveways. The driveways are quite comfortable, 8% maximum on this one, 6% maximum on this one. Good platforms as you approach Parker Station. Pretty straightforward.
Tim?
Well, the first thing I noticed is that the driveway on the lot on the right-hand side cuts right through the middle of your 4K septic area, which eliminates your 4K septic area.
So what a 4K reserve area is again, just, there's nothing binding about that area other than to show where your house and your septic leach field, as well as a replacement septic leach field, could be constructed. But I would anticipate, and what your rules say is that that area needs to be accommodated outside of a building rectangle, 60 feet by 70 feet. So you could, if not but for this building rectangle, the 4K area could be a perfect rectangle in that location. In other words, nothing tells you can't build a driveway through a septic reserve area, because the septic system and house could easily be built in a 60 by 70 area next to it, wherever you want, as long as it's outside applicable setbacks. All the soil out here is identified as Hinkley loamy sand, and so, quite good for the purposes of building construction. Our test pits were dug to depths, I think, 78 inches or deeper. 72 inches, excuse me, and in neither case did James from my office find seasonal high water table evidence. So, good soil.
2 was 78, well, 1 was 72.
Right. So they dug depths, but the bottom of hole, no ledge, 72 inches identified on the pit. That's all I've got for you.
Kimberly?
Is this a stream with the stream name? What's the surface water body that runs through it?
It's just a stream. The wetland scientist, Tom Sokolowski, didn't identify it as a named water body. It's just I think it's an intermittent stream.
I'll open up the public hearing at this point. Any butters who'd like to ask a question or make a comment, why don't you come up, sir? And give your name for the record. He can sit down here. Yeah, have a seat. No, have a seat right here.
Andrew Chansey, I'm across the road, 92 Parker Station. I was just wondering where the driveways would be in relation to my driveway? Those driveways?
Sure, absolutely.
So again, sir, these are possible driveway locations. The town engineer's office issues driveway permits, and so the driveway permits, the driveways will be subject to requirements of that office, but where I've shown that they could go, here and here. Landmark. You see you're across the way.
92?
So you're here at this utility pole between the rock walls?
Yeah,
So your driveway is this right here.
okay.
So it's diagonally across the closest drive.
Okay. This is the first one here. and the other one
That's right.
would be- Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Thank you. Is anybody else, a member of the public, who has a question or like to make a comment? Yes, sir, come on up, village name. Usually, we have a little difficult situation here, because sometimes, we usually have the easel up there, but when the easel's up there, it's trying to turn it around, because for the cameras and for the audience, for the public and for us, so usually they'd be up here. We normally don't have you there with the plans, but,
I can
This is-
certainly do as you wish.
well, we're here right now, we just want to get through it, and, I'm sorry, we need your name.
Kyle Hubbard, 42 Pinecrest, one of the abutters. I'm just wondering if you could point out on that first page where the buildable area is.
That's right on this sheet here, but I can go back to the first as well. not shown on the first. It'll be on the topographic plan. So,
Can you move him back up to the easel, Mr.
you're
Chairman?
here?
Right.
Can you move him back up to the
Yeah,
easel,
can
please?
you- it'd be easy if you were up here, so we can see it, and the other members of the public can see it.
Hard for them to see from back
Yeah, I
there,
know,
that's
it's
all.
tough trying to go back to two places.
So Mr. Hubbard's property is this property here to the south of proposed 25-4. And the building rectangles that we've shown, I'm tracing one here with my finger, and the second one on the opposite side of the property line and building setback here in this location. You see that okay?
Yep. That's it?
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other members of the public have a question or like to make a comment? Okay. Jim?
I have a question for Megan. The culvert that goes under the road, I'm not sure which way it flows. Do we
You can
need
read
to
the
get
numbers.
drainage easement?
It flows to this side of the street, Jim, the invert numbers.
Close to the south.
93
We
to
could do
90.
another, one at the outlet of the pipe.
Mhm.
The end of the pipe is within the town right away, but it's pretty close. I can't remember if the one on the other one extended beyond the right of way, and that's why we had asked for it.
So is that a yes or a no?
Yeah, it never hurts to have it. I mean, truthfully, we have a pipe prescription anyway, but it doesn't hurt to have it in a recorded easement for an outlet. And actually, was the driveway you proposed after it, so you'd be crossing it and needing a culvert on your own driveway to accommodate it?
No, because the way the grade falls, Megan, that water heads directly for the stream, and our work is on the west side of this
It was
100-foot
to the
setback,
left of it? Okay.
so no problem whatsoever.
All right. Yes, Jim, would you still ask for an easement though?
Thank you.
Mike?
Jonathan, did we get anything from the Conservation Commission from their review on it yesterday?
Yeah, that was what I read.
It was in our, it's in our packet.
There's an email from Patty that, actually, no, I can give you this one.
Is that the one I didn't have? This?
Oh, it's right there.
This one?
Kimberly, do you have that response from the Conservation Commission?
I just said there's a lot of papers here, but I think I heard him read off that they didn't have any substantial comments, right? They asked for the placards.
I have a
Mark,
question,
the
Mr.
lady.
Chair,
Yes.
that Kimberly might be able to answer. They recommended that the buffer zone be identified in the language of the deed. I find that unusual. Do you have any concerns with that? How do
To
you-
be honest, I guess I assumed it always was part of the recording of the deed.
Okay.
If not, it should be. I don't think that's unusual.
I was just unfamiliar with that requirement.
I don't know what you mean by that.
I guess I just assumed when the plans get recorded that there's always shown a buffer.
On the-
Maybe there isn't.
but-
I don't
but-
On
know.
the plan or on the deed?
So this says in the language of the deed,
Oh,
I don't,
and I find that kind of
I
difficult.
do too.
I guess I'm not a land use lawyer, so I wouldn't know.
Yeah, I've never heard of that.
I think it would be difficult because wetlands do change, they expand, they contract, they move, and if it's in the deed, I don't know how you would word that to encompass, to be all-encompassing. Oh,
If I may, what is typical, and maybe Mr. Raymond can confirm this, is that the deed will refer to this plan, which will be recorded as well, and it'll say, subject to all easements, encumbrances, buffers, and the like, or, something like that is quite easy to identify in a deed,
That clarifies my
as
concern.
shown on the plan.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, reference the plan.
Has the applicant recognized that they asked for placards to?
Just this evening, that was the first I hear of it, but I don't see a problem with that, and that's quite customary. Does it say a spacing? I didn't hear you read a spacing, 50 or 25 feet?
It does not identify it from the comments.
So if we can just nail that down so that we know what we're up against. But there isn't a heck of a lot of length there, so that's not a problem.
They typically do 100 or 50?
I don't know if we have a standard. We'd have to go back and look.
Something they put in our
Sometimes it would
subdivision
depend on
regs.
the land, what you need for the particular parcel.
Yeah, sometimes it depends. I think when we recently did.
We're gonna do it to the satisfaction of the town planner, and he can,
We can do that.
Got that one by the vet you could look at.
Chair, I move that we approve the application with the conditions listed on Jonathan's recommendations, starting on page 12, including 6A 1 through 14. In addition, that the applicant show and grant a drainage easement for the culvert, at least 20 foot by 20 foot acceptable to the Department of Public Works.
Provide a wetland delineation.
Provide wetland delineation
Placards.
or shield to plaques.
As requested by
Plaques.
the town commission.
Or bubonics, or otherwise, satisfactory to the planning director.
There a second?
A second.
Any further discussion?
Oh, I guess, and that the deed reference the easements and other encumbrances.
Reference
on
the plan. Reference to plan.
Yeah, reference the plan. I don't know how you enforce that. Say it.
A lot of things happening. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much, folks.
Stay warm.
Oh,
How
yeah.
did we do that, Jim? Yeah. 1 through 6, 2 through 16. But they weren't separated by anything.
Oh, what, I call them under 6A1 through,
Okay,
It's like a typo.
the next
I identified them.
order of business.
Wait, before we do that, I just want to make sure Gail understood
Oh, go.
the numbering system where the
From page-
conditions were on page 6A1, 6A1
Oh, on
through.
page 12? Because
Yeah.
it's at the, it started at the bottom of the page.
Yeah, okay, okay, just
I got
the way the
So
numbers.
all the rest of the conditions on this page 13 are part of condition
That's right,
6?
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, got it.
Moment
She's
of
on
panic.
top.
What are we here for? Brookfield Development.
You all set? Yeah? Okay. Our next applicant is map 4, lot
Yeah,
20. It's a conceptual plan
We're done?
review for a proposed 4-lot subdivision located on Lesnick Road, owned by Brookfield Investments, zoned residential 1 and conservancy. Mr. John.
We've seen a few iterations of this previously, and the applicant is working to address the previous planning board comments with this. It is conceptual. There were a few comments from DPW and myself, and I believe some of them have been addressed. There's still, it looks like the radii has been addressed as well. I think the only additional information that we haven't potentially discussed before, the Conservation Commission did look at this as well, and they have comments, which I can read briefly. Conservation Commission reviewed the proposed,
John, are
Yes.
these comments from this,
for this, from
Not-
last night.
not from the, when it was 4 lots the last time?
Correct, correct. These are new as of.
Right, okay.
The Conservation Commission reviewed the proposed conceptual plan and voted to recommend to the planning board that if the applicant owner doesn't wish to keep the property as 1 lot and wishes to proceed with a 4-lot subdivision, that the applicant owner be required to remove the existing foundation that was built within the Wetland Surface Water Conservation District buffer and relocate it to an area that conforms to the current 100-foot surface water district setback requirement.
Is your house on that foundation right now?
No, there's.
And I believe that with the three lots right off Lesnick,
Yep.
and then the parcel in the back is to be basically annexed into the other property that the owner has.
To one of the abutters.
To one of the abutters, excuse me.
What are we looking at, 3 lots now?
So, 1, 2, 3, and then this?
All right, I guess the question that I have, John,
Mm-hmm.
when I'm looking up at the 3 proposed lots, Lot 1, Lot 2, and Lot 3, the parcel, the wet parcel to the left, okay, is that separate from what's here in the back? I see the purple line going across Cutter, so are we taking this, oh, I'm sorry, that's all part of Lot 1?
Yep.
All right, no, the way the line went up through the middle,
Oh, the stone drainage.
when you first look at it, you're looking at it, looks like it's in 4
The
pieces.
drainage swales.
Basically, the last time they had a flag lot that cut through the middle, and there was a bunch of easements
Right.
and whatnot, and they basically eliminated
All
that
right,
flag lot.
this is part of this lot, and this back section is what's...
It's own separate entity. Yep, that's correct.
I understand. I understand.
I just forget better Alden, just go up and show us with his finger what we're talking about. Because we can't figure it out on our own.
Thank you. Yes, if I could just introduce
Sure.
myself real quickly and my guest.
Yep.
My name is Alden Boschman from Keyland Enterprises. I'm the land consultant. Involved with me is Dick Wood. Dick is the engineer involved with the project. And if I could, I'd just like to step to the front. Yeah, so to part of the confusion, this here becomes lot 1.
Right.
And you're looking at 2 other new lots. The remainder, which is this piece here, would get annexed on to one of the abutting properties. We've had a number of inquiries from other abutters that were interested in the property to merge with theirs for the purpose of creating pasture for their horses or just to protect. We might merge it onto the adjacent piece. Brookfield Investment still owns the other remaining piece up back. There's the potential of a future access. If the town was interested, it could actually be a parking area for future conservation, you name it, which is a possibility.
In effect, creating 4 lots. Yeah, I'm a little confused about the number of lots here. It sounds to me like it's actually a 4-lot subdivision.
It is.
I mean, basically,
Because that
Yeah,
whole
annexing.
lot is 1 lot.
yeah, no, I know what you're saying. I know-
Just
and- and
curious about the language, that's
Yeah,
all.
yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and so at some point, we do have to make a decision when we do submit it. We're gonna have to nail down at that point
Okay.
how it's gonna get annexed on.
Okay, because we don't want to create a lot that has no access.
Correct, exactly,
Land.
You'd be creating a lot with no access.
yes.
Actually, there is access down there in the front corner.
It's not,
Well, it has to be shown.
I've been looking at it enough.
Right, yep, understood. Other comments I noticed, and we're prepared to address them. There was concern about this well radius.
Right.
And the fact that we have some drainage intercepting that radius.
Alden, step back from it, I couldn't see over you. You're
Yeah,
just
I'm
broad
sorry.
shoulders, you're.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, there was some concern about the drainage going down through this well radius here. Again, we're prepared to address it either with some type of well easement, shift the well to one side, or else possibly just relocate that drainage. So we are aware of it, it's something that we do need to address.
Michael?
Can you explain the 3-foot berm and what sort of impact that would have onto the wetlands aspect in the northwest corner?
Yeah, I mean, initially, when we submitted the 4-lot subdivision the last time, this was gonna be a lot, we had the drainage calculations all worked out. Because it got reworked and it was necessary to move the house and leach field this way, we've got rid of a detention area there. So somehow in the course of this whole project, we do need to control our runoff, and that's why Dick is involved. We will be doing a more thorough, or finalizing our drainage study again. And, but we see this acting as some type of detention, and Dick, if you want to describe it.
I'd like to hear from Mr. Wood.
Alden and I had discussed it, and he put the berm on there, but then, actually, that area, I suspect, will become some type of a detention pond area where we can gather or collect all the water coming down off the mountain that now runs onto Lesnick Road, and collect it there, and then release it slowly through that wetland, so that we don't. I know that Megan has had concerns over the amount of runoff that's going into those culverts, and by throwing a detention pond in, or putting a detention pond and releasing it slowly, I think we can reduce the flow to all of the culverts that cross Lesnick Road now.
I think that would definitely be a thoughtful consideration to this property, because it's not just Megan that has had issues with the drainage. Every time that this property has come to the board, there's been members of the public talking about, that live down on the bottom of Checkberry Lane and how the water goes in that direction because of Uncanunic and all that.
We, as Alden indicated, on the original, or the last proposal that we had where it was 4 lots, we had a fairly substantial detention pond in the front of that parcel, which would have reduced the flow then to all of the culverts, but in the change, and it to me makes sense to cut the water flow off at that line. If that piece of property is going to be annexed to abutting properties, they're going to use it as a pasture. It really doesn't have any effect on the property, and that would be a good place to cut it off, and then any runoff on just the individual lots would be much less than is currently going to those culverts.
Maybe Megan can help us, but typically if there's any kind of detention or retention pond, we want access to, is it a concern that it's on the back lot, that approach access will be more difficult? You've said that before, that if it's going to impact the road, you want to be able to have the right to.
Yeah, right now, my comment was pretty general, stating that I really wasn't even sure what was happening, because it was a berm, it didn't say a detention pond, so I kind of, again, there's no proposed grading, so I don't have the detail I need, obviously, so I just was saying what exactly is happening here, and just, I have a concern of if we stop the water from those 3 lots, yes, it improves those 3 lots, but it pushes it all to that northwest corner wetland, so what is the impact over there into that culvert? So that'll all get ironed out in a drainage study.
But the concept of having the detention or retention pond.
You can't, well, so if there's a detention pond back there and it had to be town maintained, yes, we need the access. I mean, really, if it's a formal pond with any kind of, really, it does need access. So it depends exactly what they're installing. If they're just doing like grading to direct the water over to the wetland area, then that's not something you need to go up and, if they're proposing some grading that just is diverting the water to a certain area, that's fine. Then we just have to look really closely at what the impact is to where the water's being diverted. But it's not a formal pond right now to me. So it wouldn't need access if you're just regrading the upper area to redirect the water.
Mr. Wood, are you in a position where you could suggest which way you're leaning on that? Is it?
Well, like I say, the intent was to catch the water and then reduce it or release it slowly so that it didn't impact the wetland and that culvert. Then if that's the case, I don't know if you need an easement or a right of way to it, or whether it becomes the responsibility of that future property owner.
Yeah, I mean, again, we'd have to look at what's being proposed. Last time this came up, if you remember, when I had talked to my director about this, he was saying that he's looking at future detention ponds, possibly going, to private maintenance instead of public, for us to continue taking these over. So I don't know where that discussion is with the board. I think he had brought it up, but I don't know how far it went with the Board of Selectmen. So, we gotta figure out what's happening with that. But again, if it's a pond that has features that have to be maintained because they have to maintain a certain amount of flow, then somebody needs access, whether it's us or private homeowners. So if, let's say, if those private homeowners were maintaining it, then, they may need access off one of their own lots to get to it. It really depends on what's being designed. If it's something that has a small bleeder pipe and, you need to be able to get out there and keep that clean, and somebody needs access out there. So I really have to see what's being proposed before I can tell you what kind of access is needed. so.
And my understanding was from the detention pond that we had originally down next to the street that Public Works was shying away from having the maintenance on it.
Yes, yeah. I mean, when we had met a while ago and he threw it out back, I said, if you want us to maintain it, I'd rather see it up front. So I felt bad. Then he moved it up front. Then I showed our director, and he was like, well, I'm actually thinking of starting to, put these back on, the private homeowners in an association or something, just because we have so many we're trying to catch up with the maintenance.
You don't need
of.
another department. Tim?
Well, I think this whole discussion of the detention pond is premature because there is no detention pond on the plan anywhere. So let's just talk about it when a plan comes forth with a detention pond. In the meantime, the proposed berm is obviously intended to shift the water from the back of the property over to the wetlands, and we've had a fair explanation about that. So if we're going to talk about a detention pond, let's see one on a plan, and then we can talk about it. But there's no point in discussing one if there's not one on the plan.
Well,
It's just,
we want to give the applicant some indication of what we would be willing to accept.
well, the applicant,
This is conceptual, so
Yeah,
we'd
so-
like some conceptual.
well, then if you had a
ideas.
conceptual plan with a detention pond on it, I'd be happy to talk about it. I don't see one. All right, the second question is, we have one house lot that's in the Conservancy and residential. Does that pose any problems for us in terms of our zoning?
We discussed that last time.
And what was our determination?
Well, I believe that it's actually the building envelope, and then the green is the building
Okay.
house.
All right,
Okay.
that's
area.
very good, thank you. Okay,
Yeah, I purposely kept the houses in the
thank you very much, Alden. I just wanted to avoid that.
And,
But if you show the building box, it does kind of show that you could build in the Conservancy if someone wanted to, and I think we would almost have to restrict the building in the Conservancy
Yeah,
as part of our conditions,
yeah, because that suggests you could. You can't, otherwise you have to have a bigger lot.
even though the box is over the line.
Each field up.
Is that, if you do that, is there room for the 4K area?
You know what, I appreciate that, and I'll work on that. I think I can reconfigure the
Slide the septic
4K
forward a little
area
bit.
and just move that box and.
Just to avoid future
Yeah,
problems.
no, I agree, keep it simple.
David?
The Conservation Commission made a comment about an existing foundation within a buffer zone. Could you point out where that foundation is and what the buffer line is on that drawing?
That's come up in the past, you have an existing foundation house that was under
Yes,
construction.
I see the green hatcher.
Yeah, so basically,
And now the buffer line.
yeah, so basically what happens, and that became a sticking issue or some concern back several meetings ago, because as you're aware, there's an exemption for the existing lots. There is no buffer on the existing lots, so basically they were able to pull a building permit to do the existing foundation.
A pool what?
A building permit. So there's an existing building application for this house foundation, and as it stands right now with Goffstown regulation, there are no buffers for existing lots of record. Once you go to subdivision, then that triggers buffers. So basically, we had some verbiage to address that on one of the prior plans, so we are aware of it, and we do need to try to justify it somehow.
If we were to apply our wetland setback, can that lot still be built on?
The
Here it is.
100-foot buffer.
The answer is no.
I think it's fair to say we're not happy about the way this thing came down.
Yeah, so basically that lot would not work with a 100-foot buffer.
That's the question for us.
But so,
In the tax world, they call it a step transaction, if you break it into little steps to avoid the intent of whatever the rule is. The IRS will disallow it. Well, maybe we have the same powers here.
well, so then if that lot would be unbuildable after we do the subdivision, how are you showing a house on it? So you're saying that foundation's been built, so someone would then be allowed to continue to build a house there?
Well, it's like any other subdivision. Basically, a property owner has a right to to go to where he did
At the time.
with the lot the way that it was. It's only when you subdivide, so if somebody comes in after the fact,
Get that property.
people aren't tearing down houses and moving houses if they're in the buffer. So it's really not much different than that situation. You know, if that foundation wasn't in place, then typically the process would have been to go through the, well, either the ZBA or the planning board. I
They
know
would
they
grant it.
granted, you can request a waiver, I believe it is, from the planning board.
The outer 50
Well,
feet.
we do one buffer and the other one is.
The outer 50 feet, right?
Tim?
Alden, how long has that foundation been in the ground?
About a good year and a half.
And what has stopped the applicant from building on that foundation?
Yeah, basically, he got into the subdivision process, and obviously there was some concern, so he did not want to finalize things until we had this whole situation rectified.
So I'm just curious, I mean, under the good intent of the applicant to build using their rights, normally you would have built a house and then come back for this future subdivision after the fact, and then there would have been a house on it, and it probably would have been a much easier
Right,
pill to swallow.
right,
But now it's a little different, that it's just a foundation that's been sitting there for
right.
a long period of time.
That remains a question.
Because it hasn't been completed.
Well,
Building permit expires.
I don't know what that number is, 2 years?
I believe it's 2.
2 years. But if you've put the foundation in, you're invested in the property. I don't think they can renege on
They would just continue to get another building permit until they got the
Well, the
subdivision.
building
Well, it
permit's
seemed
still
to me
valid.
that that was gonna become an issue, then the applicant could just finish the house right now.
Or just wait and get another building permit.
well,
Right.
but they wouldn't out there.
Wouldn't need one.
Before us.
that. Okay, thank you.
Are you looking for us, Alden, to tell you the answer to that? We're troubled, but I don't know that we're.
Well, no, I know it's been a stumbling point, and obviously we need to justify it somehow, and so we will work on verbiage. I guess the biggest thing is we had a lot of issues before with the prior plan. The prior plan wasn't gonna work. This seems to be a much better scenario that's what seems to be working. I purposely called this a berm to kind of stay away from the verbiage of a detention area. It is in fact working as a natural detention area, but in fact it becomes a berm. It could be vegetated. It creates a nice clean buffer between the two sections. If somebody does want to take and cut off the view or something, there could be an easement somehow that gives control over the area. I'm not sure how we're going to work it, but you know, the concept at least seemed to be coming together. And then when one of the abutters approached us with the idea of buying the land, it really kind of helped to pull it all together, because this could become a nice pasture area.
May I ask, I don't want to get bogged down in the berm versus
Yeah.
detention pond, but Megan, do you have a concern with understanding Mr. Wood will probably polish this, but a berm that could be removed without our knowing it as a basis for going forward, or would you like something that either ensures or better ensures it doesn't get taken away by somebody? But once it's subdivided,
It's critical if it impacts the drainage, which it will.
if it's going to impact the town, we want some assurance that it doesn't get removed by people like we tend to see. They want to flatten out their land, take out all those pesky bumps. Mr.
And
Ward,
really, if that got removed, who it's gonna impact first is all those properties right there. The water's gonna go into all their backyards.
I mean,
And
shouldn't
then,
it-
yes, then it'll make it up to the front. So
Mr.
they'll
Wood
have
is
a similar
looking,
amount of areas
yeah,
too.
Mr. Wood is looking pensive. I was wondering if he,
Well, no, I'm just thinking that, I think, kind of, this discussion you had on the last plan, that it's going to become part of the plan that's recorded. And for, you know, that gives you the, as Megan says, the RSA's to go back, here's a recorded plan, and you've just violated that plan, and now it becomes a legal matter that,
Never trust
I
that.
can, number one, I can't, if that was to become a horse pasture, I can't think why anybody would want to go in and remove whatever it might be there. It's going to be a little buffer between the homes and whatever they propose for that piece of property, which to me would be an asset, but
To me, it would be more of a concern, somebody filling in up to the berm at the back of their lot.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
So
That would be
somehow,
my
I would,
concern.
I would recommend creating some type of easement.
Like
That-
down in
that-
Pinardville, down by,
Perhaps
yeah,
Second
Tim?
Street.
Okay, Alden, if you're gonna create an easement, then you have to create access for the town to get out there, so I don't like that myself. I think a berm doesn't do anything for surface water other than just redirect it. It's not, you're gonna get the same amount of water down on Lesnick Road, or, yeah, it's Lesnick Road there, yeah, Lesnick Road, that you're gonna get without the berm. The only thing that changes that is a detention pond, which then meters water after a storm. So the discussion about drainage impact on Lesnick Road, this berm, there's going to be the same. It's just going to divert the water to the wetlands. It's going to find its way over to Lesnick and go across. It's not going to remediate any water. It's just going to shift it.
It's possible to create some kind of shallow, very wide treatment swale that's grading only, no pipes that need access. So really all you need is to be able to drive a mower across someone's yard and out there. You know, if it has any pipes, that's, the reason you always need access to a pond is vac-on. You need the vac-on to get out there and clean structures or pipes. So if it's some type of graded feature that doesn't have pipes, then, you know, we may be able to figure out the access. It may not be critical, it may not be necessary to have a gravel road out to it. You may just, you know, whatever, need to be able to come up the side, you know, drive a tractor out there, you know, to be able to mow it or something. If it even needs to be mowed, it depends what it is. I mean, there's type of features that are vegetated filter strips that are meant to just grow, you know, with natural vegetation. So it really depends on what he proposes, and just as you said, there's no point in getting too bogged down yet until we see what they're proposing, so. But access, I will look at that when, whatever they propose, I'll try and figure out what's needed, so.
Jim?
Well, this is conceptual, you don't have to beat it up too much. But is it fair to say that, but for the foundation location issue, which we haven't really discussed as a board, and assuming, as Megan and Mr. Wood suggested, that there is a solution to the backland drainage or the drainage issue, that this is a much preferable plan and going in the right direction? Can we give Alden at least that much?
Hope.
well,
That's why he came to us, is to get some indication from us.
I think what it does,
Improvement.
it addresses the concerns from the last time. I mean, there are still some issues, but it seems like they've gotten worked through. There are less issues, but I think it's in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, this is non-binding from either party, but it's indication that we're more favorably disposed towards this than anything we've seen thus far.
Right. Tim?
Would we be better to make sure the, any proposed drainage features are included on the 3 lots we're talking about and not on the lot that is going to be disposed of?
I was thinking of that as well, and that's one of my thoughts I had. That way, the homeowners would be more receptive to maintaining the burn to keep their water.
Well, my point would be is that we're talking about a 3-lot subdivision and an improvement that's off the property, that's a property that has not been determined what's going to happen to it yet, and you may be shifting this burden to someone else down the road, then it becomes more of an issue. So if you would consider that this would be part of the actual 3-lot subdivision and not on the disposable lot.
Yeah, well, that's a really good idea. I was thinking of that.
Right, and the issue, the concern that I have with this, what I brought up, because this has happened specific places. This berm being on another piece of property, these property owners here, they look out, they look at that, as far as they're concerned, that's their land, so now it drops off, they want to grade it, they want to do something back there, they come in and they start filling up a little bit to that berm, and they, all of a sudden, their land starts goes down all in Louis Street onto town property. where the
This-
backyards of all the lots were town property that were filled in. People had pools on town
Yeah, but
property.
this berm is uphill from their backyards. They're not going to fill uphill, I wouldn't.
Well, the point is that it's a berm that's going up. They see that, and they got that dip. They want to fill in, they put something back there, and now they've encroached onto the back. And who's going to see it back there? Just the other couple, and they all do it. They all push the envelope a little bit. So somehow that needs to be recognized, addressed, either referenced, whatever is done, it needs to be referenced somehow, so the property owners know, and when they sell, when these lots get transferred to another property owner, that property owner is aware of it.
One more thing, Phil, if I may. This would be a good application for the owners to take ownership of the easement and the maintenance of it, rather than the town be responsible. This would be a prime example for the landowners to maintain the berm, or if it's going to be a drainage depression, swale, whatever you want to call it, if it has to be mowed, we would put that off on the landowners to maintain it, and if they don't, then they would be charged by the town for the town to maintain it.
But if we're gonna maintain it, we still need an easement right to get in, if there's a risk that we may. Because if you develop it, we gotta leave
Well,
it
just,
to one.
I would like to see that this application have the burden of maintenance be shifted to the landowners and not to the town. Otherwise, I agree with the conceptual design of the lots. I think it's a much better plan than we've seen before. Aside from the fact that the foundation in question needs to be discussed.
Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play?
Anything else? You have any other questions of us?
No, not. It was very helpful, the conversation tonight, so I know what the issues are, and I have some solutions and
Before
ideas.
we hang up,
Yep,
Phil?
sure.
There's other, how about the features in the front along Lesnick? They all appear to be on private property. So would they also be maintenance agreements with the landowners to maintain them as well? They're not in the public right-of-way, are they? They're on
We're
the,
gonna take and,
seem to be on the landowner's property.
it's basically drainage swales along the road.
For the road, that's for the,
Private town maintained.
Yeah, we'll probably.
I think what it was is, that's old stone wall, there wasn't a lot of room between the edge of the road and the stone wall way back when the town had a contractor redo that road, so we didn't have enough room to put a proper swale in. There's under drain there, but we had discussed with the landowner way back when that at some point, if that land ever got developed and, we would, if the stone walls were removed, we'd like, normal swales down the side of that to intercept, the water coming off. So, well, again, we had so much water coming off this that it was a concern, so, Ed had said he would be willing to do that, so I'm guessing that's what that is, so.
So do they-
those Possibly we'd have us, but,
this regular town.
because they're just regular, they're just gonna be regular roadside.
But they would have to have a drainage easement because they're all
Yeah.
on the landowner's property. Okay.
It would be an easement to the town for the right to maintain
Maintain
those ditch lines.
And that includes removing the stone wall across the entire length of the whole property?
It's gone.
It's already gone?
Yes.
Okay.
That was a good sized wall, too.
I remember that.
Did a great job on
Bless.
that one.
I remember that wall.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? If not, we're done.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you. All right, and we have some business to complete before you go home, Michael.
Pardon?
We had some business to complete.
Good night, Alden.
Good night.
Story of my life.
He listens, and he is willing changes to make concessions.
No, I get some early clients sometimes.
Robert Todd. Okay, we on our handouts now?
Action items.
Yeah. Yeah. Number 2, we'll try the action.
Okay.
Chicken and little baby update.
What are we looking at?
The handouts that are on the table.
Yeah, we have a
Yeah.
bunch of them.
Which one are we starting with?
For lot
Which one are you
95.
starting with?
Well, I guess we go to, number one was the continuance, and number two is a request for guidance regarding the ZBA decision.
93 Mountain Road?
That's correct.
Yep.
So can we get apprised of the situation?
Yes. And any information that you have on any of these would be very much appreciated. The ZBA on Tuesday, December 6th, had an applicant come before them requesting two variances. One was for building on a half-acre lot where 1 acre lot is required. I don't have any issue with that. The second variance request was to build within the inner 50 feet of the 100-foot, wetland surface water conservation buffer. My interpretation of the zoning ordinance, when an applicant comes for the inner 50 goes to ZBA, outer 50 goes before the planning board. So if someone comes to ZBA and they decides that they're going to go to the outer 50, it needs to come back before the planning board. It's the way I understood it. The ZBA suggested that the applicant could withdraw the variance request, as he did, to build within the inner 50, and the ZBA granted them permission to build in the outer 50. The ZBA felt this would address the Conservation Commission comments appropriately and allow the applicant to proceed without delaying him further. The applicant specifically asked if they were all set to move forward and submit a building permit. The ZBA said yes. My understanding of this process would be that the planning board could, if they wanted to, ratify the decision in order for the process to comply with the Goffstown zoning ordinances written.
So, Tim?
Is this the process where we hand it off to the Conservation Commission for a 30-day period? Is that the process we're talking about for the outer 50?
We sometimes do that.
Has that been our past practice, Jim?
Conservation.
No, we ask them for their,
Comments and questions, or
Yeah.
concerns, but it's a 30-day waiting period, isn't it?
45 days.
45 days, okay.
Dave, did
The
you?
Conservation Commission has already walked this property and made a report back to their committee.
But if this is how it's been done in the past practice, why are we going away from it at this point?
I'm saying, there's already a report in the Conservation Commission on their concerns with this property.
But we
Why
don't
not?
have that.
Why aren't we, looking at that?
Because it didn't come here?
You're asking for something new to be done by the Conservation?
No, this is how it's been done in the past, and in as many years as I've been serving, we have always had a request. Didn't we have one at the end of Mountain Base Road? Was that an application at the end of Mountain Base Road and Wallace Road, where they wanted to build? And we had to hand it off to the Conservation Commission for that period of time for comments and concerns, and they respond back to us, and then we move forward with the decision.
Well, I guess what I'm confused, is this something that the ZBA granted that is supposed to come to the planning board?
My understanding was that they would be required to go to the planning board, and I mentioned...
How did they get to the ZBA if they were supposed to come to the planning?
Well, originally they were
Started
coming
with
for the
inner.
inner 50, which they don't have to go to the planning board for the inner 50 of the buffer, and I think that's
So
what
they
the...
switched it at the ZBA?
At the request of the ZBA, the applicant withdrew their request for the variance for the inner 50, which I interpreted as triggering the need to go to the planning board.
Well, typically, if you're in the inner 50, you've also affected the outer 50, which is
Right.
when we would get it.
And that's...
So I'm confused how they were in the inner 50 without crossing the outer
That's
50, which is our
what-
jurisdiction.
I didn't understand, that's why I'm
Yeah, you gotta
confused.
And we don't have a plan.
Yeah, and
Come
from...
here first for the outer 50, go to ZBA for the inner 50 second.
Right.
And that's not the way it's worded in the zoning ordinance, so that's...
The only way they can get relief from the inner 50 is a variance.
Right.
Which the ZBA will grant, but it's still supposed to show all the requirements of a variance, which is hard to do, in theory. We put in, so there's no, like, you can just apply to the ZBA, like you can apply to the planning board for permission to build within the inner 50, you have to get a variance. We put in the outer 50 because when we adopted the 100-foot, we recognized that it would create a problem for a lot of existing properties. And so we said, okay, if we can have a waiver so we can put whatever conditions we need on it, that will, it's sort of, you know, compromise between ideal protection and the reality of development in Goffstown.
Right.
So that was the intent of it. But it wasn't to let people just skate through and avoid the whole wetland issue. And the reason it should go to the planning board is we generally have, that's something the planning board does. It looks at how do you protect wetlands, what conditions do you put on it. It's a planning board function typically, not a ZBA function. So that's why it rests in our hands. It's analogous to a conditional use permit where you can put conditions, but that's why.
Wasn't it previously a conditional use permit for the outer?
I don't remember.
I thought Patty mentioned
I
that.
don't know that we had originally I think we had a 50-foot, if I recall, when it was first adopted.
Which is in line with the state statute, correct?
Well, it was,
There's no state wetland buffer.
that, at the time, that was call a political compromise, because it only got through the planning board by one favorable vote margin. So we didn't think we could go to 100 feet. But we recognized at the time that most recommendations are 100 feet. Now they're more, but, so that's why we tried to move it into the 100-foot, but keep this, this opt-out or this, slippage, position on the outer 50 feet, just to make it palatable. But ZBA can grant variances from the zoning ordinance. It's their power, like it or not. So that's probably why they originally applied for a variance.
Were they in, I'm still trying to figure this out. Here's your wetland, here's the inner 50, here's the outer 50. So did they not, because if they were crossing the outer 50 and into the inner 50, they have to get the ZBA variance and planning board?
The way the zoning ordinance is written, it says if it's an inner 50, it goes to ZBA.
Does it? Does it? Where
I
does
believe that it does. It definitely says the outer 50 goes
I
to
don't
planning
think
board.
it does. It does. It's a.
Why
I
don't
guess
we
it's an
get the
assumed
wording?
condition.
I'm looking at it.
Okay.
Maybe I'm missing something. I often do, but.
All right, why don't you read that for, and Tim
What
had it.
page are you on, John?
It's on page 84.
If I may, Jim?
Yeah, Tim?
This is the property that has the little trailer that's between Mountain Road and the river, and the brook, right?
That is correct, yes.
How wide is the lot there? Is it only 50 feet wide? There may not
No.
be an outer 50.
No, there is an outer 50 feet that
purple
they
one?
could stay, if they, basically what the ZBA was under the impression from the applicant, if they shifted the house and moved it a few feet, that it could be outside of the 50-foot buffer, and that's basically what the ZBA directed the applicant to do, which is why I thought they needed to come before the planning board. And since the decision was made, I wanted to make sure we have 30 days, from the notice of decision, which I just want to make
Contest
sure,
it.
being prudent, that it's done correctly and there's no mistakes made. So that's why I'm coming to you and asking for some guidance as to how to handle
So
this situation.
our option is to ratify their decision or to contest their decision, in a nutshell.
That's the
Yeah,
case.
but I guess the question, though, that I have is, what is it exactly that the issue is that ZBA can grant a variance? So is it specifically, I guess, worded that you said that it wasn't, but do they have to come to the planning board for one? Is it specifically they go to the planning board for one and the ZBA to the other?
From my understanding and speaking with Patty, that if it was to, if there was a discrepancy, if they were on the line or things of that nature, they'd go to the more stringent, which would be theoretically a variance for the ZBA. And since the ZBA asked the applicant to withdraw that variance, there was no variance for that granted. So to me, that would mean they need to be granted relief from the planning board. And what relief is, I don't know what that is. It doesn't say conditional use, it doesn't say.
No, we should have called it something, but.
So, and that's why I say, you could theoretically ratify the ZBA's decision or not, and I'm just looking for some direction so I know how to handle this for this particular case, and for the future.
Well, I mean, it seems like the ZBA's granting permission is in violation of 1334.
Yeah, that's the one that grants, they have to have a certified wetland sign. Are they looking to expand an existing use, or is this a new use? New structure, rather?
It's a new structure. I believe it was a 3-bedroom home,
Okay.
roughly 36, but they're removing the trailer that's there.
Okay. You got 13, there's a grandfathering clause in this 13.3.9.
Yeah.
I want the record to show that Chet hasn't run off screaming from the room saying, oh my God, I can't believe this. I know
He's
this."
absorbing.
Been very quiet.
Yes, it-
I've noticed that.
Taking it all in, leave him alone.
If he has the look on him, do I really want to be here?
And I did look at the grandfather, but since it's a new structure,
Okay, sorry, but I just want to make sure. I think where they don't have a variance, they have to follow the procedure that Michael pointed out in 13.3.4, which is, now we don't, I guess we should call this something, some kind of, but they apply to us and get a report from a certified wetland scientist. That's just the procedure.
Emily?
Well, so I guess I agree that they should come before us, but I don't know, did they present a functions and values report from the wetland scientist when they talked about the variance?
negative.
No, all right, because that is what we require. So I was trying to say if Concom's already looked at it and given comments on it, it's possible, but we do ask for the functions and values report because that's what we want to know.
Conscom did look at it. They didn't really, to summarize and not to speak for them, they didn't really want anything there. But there was no
the procedure?
wetlands scientist, there was no wetlands report per se.
But let me ask this question.
With the
When
ZBA.
Conservation looked at it, were they looking at it from the perspective of what the application, what they
lawyer's job?
originally went before it got switched?
Mhm.
Would that make a difference on the concerns of the Conservation Commission?
I was under the impression that the Conscom didn't want anything.
Well, I don't know any, because I have
Yeah, no.
never seen
When
what.
the action was before the Conservation Commission, the applicant wanted to build the house on the outer 50 feet and touches into the inner 50 feet, like it was 45 feet from the stream.
Mm.
You know, so it was 5 feet of the house was within the inner 50. That was what the Conservation originally saw. And then, according to the remarks tonight, the applicant says he'll change his mind and not build in the inner 50.
Tim?
So if the applicant at the zoning board and the zoning board of adjustment had followed 1334 and its steps and done it by the zoning regulations, I think we could have ratified their decision. But since they did not get a report from a certified wetland scientist, and therefore I don't think that they had the authority to grant the relief in the outer 50 feet, and I think that we need to, as a planning board, I think we should file for a contested decision.
Well, they haven't, it doesn't comply with zoning what they did, but they didn't do it as a variance, therefore I don't think, they don't have an approval that the building inspector can grant, used to grant an approval.
A building permit.
Yeah, and that's where, I mean, if they had
Make the step.
somehow granted a variance, worded it some other way, maybe, but, I mean, they had them withdraw it, so.
I don't think you need to stay,
Yeah, I was wondering.
unless you just want, you like
No,
being
it's
here.
something else, right? that you're
Is
talking
there-
about?
The next one,
Oh, okay.
So let's move on. Let's
Yeah,
get
if
this
you
done.
want, we'll move on, we can come back to this one.
No, we'll finish this real quick here.
okay.
Let's get this over with.
So how would the board like me to address this
I
issue?
think you have to say that's follow the procedure in 13.3.4, which is to come before the planning
But-
board with it.
I guess, so the question, though, is
I need to notify the applicant.
procedurally, we want to make sure that if we need any motions or anything, we need to do
Well,
that.
there's nothing before us to act on, we're just
Okay.
giving Jonathan
I
guidance.
just want to make sure.
The ZBA did not have the authority under the zoning ordinance, absent a variance, to grant approval to build within the outer 50 feet. Rather, that power is held by the planning board. They have to follow the procedures set out in the ordinance, that Michael pointed out, 13.3.4.
So you're saying John ought to send a letter to the applicant saying what you've just said?
And should I
Which is what Michael said.
also notify the chair of the ZBA via memo from the board?
Yeah?
Okay, but
Courtesy.
is he doing this as a zoning officer? Under what capacity?
Yeah.
I don't care, whatever. Put on all your hats.
Planning and zoning administrator.
We can, if we're putting Jonathan in a bad spot, we can have another one of the town officials send the letter. There's plenty of people above
Right,
him.
but he's the one that would,
I just want to make sure it's the proper, it's the proper authority making the decision.
Well, they can't issue a building permit because they haven't followed the
Well,
regulations.
then a
But
motion,
who makes that determination? Is it the code enforcement officer? Is it the planning board?
let Jonathan decide that.
I mean, the
guess-
problem is that the applicant asked if they were all set, and ZBA said yes, and the answer is no, you're not.
Right. I mean, I could send a memo to myself, I suppose.
Did you notify the ZBA? We
Have
didn't
an
notify
argument.
the applicant and
Unless you
ZBA.
sign a receipt for it.
Next.
No, but I guess my whole point is if you're gonna send a letter to whoever, it's the ZBA, the applicant, saying that it doesn't conform to this, it doesn't conform because you didn't follow
13,
this.
what, 3-4?
Are you doing it in a capacity as
Don't worry about it.
code enforcement officer?
I move that we delegate Jonathan to make that determination.
yeah, but aren't we putting him on the spot by saying he's got to administratively overrule
No,
a decision of the zoning?
Well, we can say, okay, if you want a motion, I'm going to move that we find that the section 13.3.4 in the zoning ordinance means what section 13.3.4 in the zoning ordinance says, which is that relief from the outer 50 feet is granted by the planning board, not the zoning board. Therefore, the applicant must file an application to the planning board in accordance with that section.
Second.
Yay.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous, opposed, abstaining, it's unanimous.
Thank you.
You're welcome, thank you. Good catch.
Now Jonathan is just following directive.
Yes. By way of a motion.
I appreciate that very much.
Official.
My
Duly
job
authorized.
is to protect the staff.
Good job, thank you.
Okay.
And
Driveway?
I have another one.
Is this the one Megan's staying for?
This is the one Megan is staying for. I basically copied and pasted the staff review from the Board of Selectmen meeting on December 12th. The property owners, 171 Montalona Road, there's a few issues going on with driveways, fences, building permits, things of that nature. My biggest issue to discuss with the board, they have multiple driveway entrances, even though the subdivision, the approved subdivision plan removed the access from Montalona Road and moved it to Fieldstone. They have since removed the required berm, removed the curbing that DPW placed there, repaved this section, and now they're asking to go before the ZBA for variance. I
From?
believe
Variance from what?
a variance to the allowable driveway for frontage, and it's, my thought is, this is something that we're working with myself, DPW has been going after, or, excuse me, I don't mean to say going after, the DPW has been working with the owner to try to fix these issues, has been non-responsive. The building inspector has tried, the previous zoning administrator has tried, the town prosecutor has gotten involved, and now the applicant is working with us.
This is a commercial use?
That's another factor with this.
And this was the site, it's just a subdivision plan, not a site plan.
Correct. This is a subdivision plan for
Okay,
Blackbriar.
and the ZBA doesn't have authority to modify a subdivision plan.
Right. It has not gone before them yet.
Okay. Yeah, it is, there is nothing,
Okay. The proper procedure would be for them to come back here for request to modify the subdivision plan
and second, it's a commercial use, it sounds like. It
That's-
requires site plan approval.
Okay. And that's,
I think-
What's the zoning?
bless you, agricultural.
Well, is this a landscaper, that landscaper exception that we have?
They changed that recently, and I don't believe that it would be allowed per the new
Okay, in
zoning.
which case, I think we could direct whatever hat Jonathan wants to put on, that he should issue a cease and desist order until they come in to get a site plan approval. And also find they're in violation of the subdivision approval and put same remedy.
Okay.
I'd make that motion based
Is
upon the
there also a
information.
diesel tank on there?
According to the list.
Yes.
I'll second Jim's motion. Gail. But while we're discussing the motion, I don't think that they can have, under the 911 rules and I don't think you can have two driveways for the same residence on two different streets either. I dealt with that on my own property.
Yeah, but you can only have one address.
Right, but if you have two driveways that are on two different streets, and your address is your home and it's one parcel, two driveways become confusing under the
We don't have to
911.
go there yet. Let's get them in, but whatever they're doing, so I'd make that motion.
Already seconded
It's
it.
been seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, unanimous.
So you're pretty much asking them to come in for a site plan, is what,
And to modify their subdivision.
And have a cease and desist issue.
yeah. I mean, I read those minutes from the selectmen's meeting, and I don't know if it was clear or not
Wait a
about the
minute.
business thing. I think it was brought up, and I think his answer was he's storing equipment there, but not running a business out of it.
Right, that was his answer.
With the 275-gallon fuel tank and a propane generator.
If I may, John, your memo that you gave to us, you have Mountain Road and then you have Montalona, there's a typo for the RE in bold print. So if you want to modify that?
Oh, thank you.
Okay, can Megan go home? Good night, Megan. Thank you very much.
We wanted to find out what PMA stands for, though.
That is my high school that I went to down in Methuen. It's Presentation of Mary Academy.
Right.
So,
Not the one in Hudson.
no, down in Methuen. So, yeah, they gave me this several years ago because I go every year and talk to all the students about engineering. So,
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
they gave this to me one year and I love it every year. Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
good night, Megan.
And for the hat trick, this isn't really,
Okay, where are we on to next?
This one?
this is the thickest of the three.
This is old.
This is a parcel that intersects Manchester and Goffstown, and we had an email from the planning department that they might actually come and ask, I guess theoretically, for an encumbrance on the property, not to,
Who may ask?
the city of Manchester.
City of Manchester.
Read this, you guys, just too quick, let me,
Sorry.
give me a minute.
And there is a lot of information in this as well, so I don't necessarily expect anything tonight. It's more of an FYI.
Because the septic system is over the town line? Is that what I'm looking at?
Well, the plan that we actually have, that they gave to us, it shows that it's all on Manchester, but Megan said today that she received a phone call about this, and she just left, so, that the individuals that spoke with her are talking about putting the septic in Goffstown now, so we expect an updated plan of sorts to review.
Does their land extend into Goffstown?
It does, yes.
Okay. Because I was looking at the line Manchester-Goffstown, I thought that was their property line for some reason.
It's a total of 7.45, and I believe 6 of it, or roughly thereof.
Oh, this is all a proposed, this is not an existing?
Correct.
Okay.
So is the question, do they have to come before us for approval?
Of course they do. If they're gonna be in our town.
The city of Manchester, they wouldn't give them approval for the building as proposed, just based on the amount of land in Manchester, based on soil and things of that nature. So they're requesting that we take a look and basically, oh, sorry.
Is this similar to when St. Anselm's built and they had part of the site plan went into Bedford And I don't remember if part of the structure, or parking lot or
That was a
something.
parking lot.
Was it just a parking lot with any structure?
The parking lot there.
Can we have Jonathan finish the sentence that he was embarked
Oh,
on?
I'm sorry.
What do you need?
Basically, it sounded like the city of Manchester wanted to guarantee that the portion in Goffstown would not be developed upon further. There's no access to it right now. It's surrounded by required open space by the Monarch subdivision as well, and there's a huge grade change. I mean, it would,
Oh, there's a great view there.
oh, yeah. So I don't know that we have any issue, but, you know, Manchester wanted us to be aware, and they also, you know, wanted us to look at this and see if we had any comments.
But how much property goes into Goffstown?
6 acres.
lot.
Yeah, it's a fair amount.
If, it's hard, if you can see this locus diagram
Yeah.
on the page, the engineer failed to put on the town boundary line,
Yeah.
which is what I drew as a bold line right here.
Okay. Okay, but I guess the question, what they have in Goffstown, is it buildable?
There is
According to our
no,
zoning?
there is no access right now to that property except through Manchester.
Well, could they subdivide, well, okay.
I don't think that the slope would allow for access from Manchester. It's a significant slope. I'm not an engineer, but I mean, you'd have
Yeah,
a
well, I mean, I guess the only way though that, so do they want from you, did they request that it couldn't be further developed?
basically, that's what they were asking, but it wouldn't be able to be developed anyway, so I don't know if we even need to take action, or just, you know, somehow put a note in the file saying that. I'd like to see their plan. I mean, if they're gonna actually put septic in Goffstown, you know, obviously, we would wanna be aware of that.
Well, this is controlled by RSA 674-53, which is when you have land straddling a municipal boundary. And the applicant has two options. One, he can treat the town line as a boundary line, in lots, but if he needs the land here in Goffstown to comply with the Manchester ordinance, he's allowed to do that, but he has to come
He has to
to
apply here.
us as well as to there, and
Right.
to Manchester. And we can put conditions on the use of our land that will allow its development for Manchester purposes, but we still look at it with a Goffstown, through a Goffstown lens. And
I think that's why they were reaching out to us,
Yeah.
to make sure that was coordinated properly. Okay.
Right, that's what I kind of thought.
I think they even mentioned coming and talking with us.
Yeah. I don't know if there's any rule on having a joint hearing by boards from two different towns. That would be an interesting thing to do. But make them come here, I'm not going there.
They meet earlier.
Does this have a regional impact?
Time, forget it.
It does talk about joint hearings at the bottom.
Do they? Oh, okay.
However, each board may meet separately.
Well, I know that's for ZBA and planning board, but do they do that with the two? Oh, yeah, okay.
It's in
Yeah,
the-
yeah, no, you're right. Yeah, okay.
Well, John, when you say that, you know, you can just say, well, we'll do it this way, otherwise you can come here for the joint meeting.
Was there a motion? I was just kidding, I'm sorry.
Oh, now you want to take the blame off of you.
It was working so well earlier.
You're getting smarter by the minute, John.
Okay, so,
Anything else come before the
Motion
meeting?
to
Seeing
adjourn.
none? Move to adjourn?
I already
is
beat
there
you to
anything
it.
else that we need to discuss? We all set? The motion has been seconded?
Yes, I'll second it.
It's non-debatable. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Merry Christmas.
Merry
So
Christmas.
when do we?